Welcome back to the Tasting Room episode. Shit, I did it again. Episode 17? 18. We're going to say 18.
16?
I'm not editing this.
18,
no,
17?
16. I know it's not 16. I'm going to look as we talk, but this is a fantastic episode because we have a 22-year-old firecracker phenom.
Yeah.
I mean, Riley Flanagan of Riley's Rose.
Been in the wine industry since she was 4?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Episode 17, I was right.
Episode 17. Yep. Right on.
Yeah, but Riley, I mean,
from California.
22 going on like 50 as far as experience.
Yeah.
Right?
From California, coming into Tulsa as a firecracker.
Yep.
Super cool conversation.
Her grocery baskets look a lot different than Austin and I's.
True. Unless it's Lisa buying the groceries.
That's why I said Austin and I.
That's true.
Very true. Let's just get right to it. It was a lot of fun. We'll have Riley's interview on the other side of the break.
Right on. Cheers.
Hey, I'm John. I'm one of the partners here at Grassfire Creative. We are a production company. We do animation, video production, live production, anything you need to creatively tell both your story and your business's story. Along with the content that we create, we also provide the strategy behind how to get it in front of the eyeballs that matter to you. We're located right in the middle of the United States in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so no matter where you are, we're just a short flight away. Bottom line is we are very excited to both meet you and tell your business's story. Please do reach out to us one of the ways below via email or phone number and check out more about us at our website, grassfirecreative.com.
Welcome back to the Tasting Room. This is going to be a fun conversation. Riley Flanagan in the house. How are you, dear?
Hi. Doing good. Just hanging out.
We just met and I already like you.
Oh, that's a good start, I guess.
Yeah.
And you're not even drinking yet. So.
No, not yet. And we're going to drink. So this is going to be a wine and whiskey only podcast.
Yeah.
You were a little busy today, so we're anti-beer, but we have 2 wines.
Also, I haven't drank a beer since college and wasn't planning on changing that
Seriously?
anyway.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I hate beer. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Whoa, okay.
No
That actually
offense.
worked out perfectly.
No offense.
It's bad.
Well, it's not all bad.
So tell me what.
It's bad that I don't like beer.
Tell
I wish
me.
I did. My
Tell me what you're
personality would be a little
pouring
better.
first. What
I'm
is
pouring
this?
my 2019 Sauvignon Blanc, and I actually was switching to 2020 as current vintage pretty soon. So this will be one of the last times that I talk about this wine after Fieldbrook Wine Experience next weekend.
There you go. So I will say probably the initial reaction to hearing you say I'm pouring my wine is they're going to look at that camera right over there and say, you don't look old enough to have your own winery, your own labels. So walk us through the history of how you started down this whole thing.
Yeah, it's funny because in 2019, I definitely wasn't old enough.
Fair. Yeah.
So Dad started in the wine industry in 1999.
So who is Dad?
And who is Dad?
My dad is Eric Flanagan.
There we go.
Right on.
And I brought one of his wines as well, just so I had something to talk about him.
Yeah, go.
So we can make him watch it later. And so he got started in 99. He fell in love with how different terroir affects different varietals and how wines can change year to year, and really with the farming behind wine. And so then he and I planted his first vines in 2001 in Bennett Valley, which is on the kind of southern side of Sonoma County in California. 2004 was his first vintage. He called it Riley's Rose. I have 2 sisters. I get asked this a lot. No, he did not name the wine after that. That is all them. That is all I will say about them.
Okay.
And wine. They're awesome. But we made a barrel of cab with a good friend of his, Philippe Melka, and his daughter, and kind of just kept going from there. I went back to preschool and told them all I was going to be a winemaker. Nobody believed me. We flash forward to, I think I was in high school, and I'm rapidly realizing that Dad is super stubborn, absolutely brilliant, but completely stubborn and not going to change anything about what he does. So I started Riley's Rose as a way to do my own thing, really with the goal of sharing wine with people. My first wine was in 2015, doesn't really count. 16, I dabbled a little bit. 17 is really when I say I got started, partially because I was actually 18 at that point, and you have to be 18 to sell alcohol.
There you go.
And also
strategic decision.
That's when I started making the Sauvignon Blanc, which really kicked me off as a brand.
Which shout out to Ryan Rex. He's probably really jealous that he's not here because he's one of the partners. I don't think you've met yet, Austin, but he everywhere we go, his go-to drink, no matter where we are, is a glass of Sauv Blanc. Just
no matter
hands
where,
down.
no matter what time.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
I saw him drink a glass of Sauvignon Blanc at like 1 a.m. after our harvest party in Healdsburg,
Yep.
where we had been drinking wine all night.
He can never get enough Sauv Blanc.
I was like, that is impressive.
But
bro.
yours is really good, and he
Thank you.
does like yours quite a bit.
Yeah, great acidity, ruby red grapefruit, Meyer lemon. I'm doing this in about 40% neutral oak. So it's getting a lot more oxygen contact during fermentation. And that, in practical terms, just means that it's a lot softer in kind of the middle of when you're drinking it. So you get those fruit notes right off the bat, that Meyer lemon, that's the acidity showing through. But definitely softens up and follows through. And that's coming definitely from being in neutral oak partially, and then still classic Savvy B due to that 60% steel tank.
Yeah.
So not trying to change it too much.
No.
Just balance it
It's
out.
delicious.
Yeah,
you.
it's got a beautiful minerality to it.
Minerality.
Is that how we say it? No,
Minerality.
Minerality. I'll draw it out.
Which is great for me because I love Kolsch, even though that you don't like beer. I'm not one to be found without a Kolsch in my hand. Even this morning at 11 a.m.
Sometimes it's it's what you got
I
to
really almost started drinking this morning, and the only reason I didn't was because I knew I had to drive here. Like, I was this close. It was
do.
beautiful
As if it's
out.
that far from.
I finished my hike. I went
Yeah.
home. I'm like cooking. I'm like, ooh, bottles. I'm like, we don't need the whole bottle for the podcast.
Well, we might.
We'll see.
That's fair.
We don't
We'll
have
see.
beer here, so
That is,
Tulsa
that is
time.
true. It
Yeah,
is
that's
Tulsa
right.
time.
So, okay, explain to me, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm assuming you're growing your vines in California. And so how in the world are you tied to Tulsa, and why are you choosing to be here?
So I'm very, very lucky. And the only reason I'm able to do anything that I am doing right now with my wines is because my dad is A, an amazing boss, and B, an amazing dad, and C, great at picking vineyard sites. So he runs a vineyard investment fund. They manage about 400 planted acres throughout Mendocino County, Sonoma County, and Lake County. I buy 90% of my fruit from him, mostly in Mendocino and Lake County, sometimes in Sonoma County when he gives me a deal.
A little expensive, if not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like to keep my price points between 25 and 40 retail, inflation adjusted. Dad
Sure.
makes me say that part. I have no plans to change my prices, but we'll see.
You kind of have to make some hard decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things don't make sense.
I'm too young for that, so we're not looking at those yet. I'm still learning how to be a grown up. So with that, it's really much easier for me because my dad is managing those sites. He's going out relatively often, and I'm back in California probably once every other month or so. I like to be there checking in on my blendings. I'm always there for my final blendings. I like to just check in and make sure that we're not doing anything drastic or deviating from what my style is. And there is something to be said for going out into the vineyards and actually seeing where your fruit is coming from. And and that is one thing that I think I miss a lot about not living there anymore, is you get a much better idea of the style of wine you're going to make year to year based off how the weather is that year. Luckily, I talk to Dad on the phone every day, and if it's raining or if it's hot, he tells me purely through if he's going surfing or not. But
sounds about right for
definitely,
Eric.
right?
Yeah.
Definitely in high school, it was different because I was there. I was at the winery. I was seeing, okay, we're getting a huge heat spike, and it's August. That's definitely going to influence, say, how much cab there was in my red blend that year because it needed more backbone. It needed more structure because it was a much hotter, more restrained year. So not being there definitely has its pains, but Dad lets me do that by helping me out and being there all the time.
So what brings you to Tulsa?
I have no idea.
Okay.
We have a lot of family friends in Tulsa. Dad has a founders club, which is 100 people total, and I think now 12 of them are in Tulsa. John is one of them.
I am.
All right.
And his motto at that club is customers who became friends and friends who became customers. So I've stayed at these people's houses. During quarantine, we would Zoom and hang out. I've become very, very close. Honestly, I've been coming to Tulsa's house before I could drive a car. So before my 16th birthday, so I must have been 15 or something.
Yeah.
TC and I were talking about this yesterday at Lowood, trying to figure out how old I was when I met everybody. But I really have developed a lot of family here. And that is in no small part thanks to Chris Dodge. May he rest in peace.
Dodger.
He dragged Dad and I out here pretty much, like kicking and screaming, saying we had to come to Tulsa. And we did, and we loved it. Super affordable. I was able to be a part of the Tulsa Remote program.
That's what I was going to ask.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Very centrally located. I've never dated a cowboy. I thought it would be a fun adventure. The more I get to know cowboys, the less I want to date them, but I still love Tulsa. So.
Word.
That is funny. I poured the rye whiskey. We don't have to drink it yet. I was just going to let it breathe. Do we want to go... Do we want to drink more white? Do we want to pour some of the red to talk about?
Let's
talk about Daddy.
Let's drink some more white.
Some more white,
into the conversation.
Absolutely. So what I'm curious about, and I've always thought this, and I don't think I've ever asked you or your dad this. When you think about like the future of your wine label and how it might change, where it might go, is that even a thought process? Like where it might go? Because aren't you kind of restricted to the kinds of wine you can make based on like what you were talking about, climate and that sort of thing? So you can't really add a varietal necessarily that easily, could you? Or,
I mean, I have. It's kind of sad. 2020, as I'm releasing the 2020 whites now, thank you. I'm realizing it's the first year I didn't make a new wine. 2015, I made Chardonnay as my first wine. In 16, I also made a Cab and a red blend. 17, I introduced the Sauvignon Blanc. 18, the Rosé. 19, the Semillon and the Baby Plat Chardonnay, which was a vineyard designate. And 20, there was nothing new.
So how much of how much of that is blending? So help a wine novice understand, like when you say all those different varietals, is it different grapes, blending of different grapes, growing of different vines? Like how do you describe that?
So with my Chardonnay, I make a North Coast Chardonnay, which is a blend of different sites. The Baby Plat is only from the Plat Vineyard. And that is a wine that I have no business making, in all honesty. It is way above my pay grade and honestly should be way above what price point I'd be comfortable charging. I charge $39 a bottle for that wine, and it is by far the cheapest Plat wine on the planet. The Plat Vineyard is arguably, and it depends on who you're arguing with, because some people think it's no question,
right.
Dad included, the best Chardonnay and Pinot Noir vineyard in the New World. It's 2 miles as the crow flies from the coast. It's above the marine layer. It has this amazing temperature consistency that gives you incredible acidity. And also, it was planted correctly on the right soils, the right rootstocks, the right slope facings, the right varietals for the site the first time around, which is relatively unheard of. Even Dad in his first site planted pretty much all Cab and realized, and then a little bit of Chardonnay, realized the Chardonnay was great, but the crop yields really didn't support the cost of Chardonnay fruit. That the Syrah was amazing and definitely needed to be spotlighted. You don't know what you're doing unless you know what you're doing. And I think a lot of people go into the wine business with very romantic notions that it's going to be a hobby and that it's going to just be sitting on a vineyard and watching your grapes grow and enjoying them later on.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely not true. And I think that's why so many vineyards are misplanted the first time around. You can't help it.
Right.
You just go with what your heart wants. And that's, it's a business and it's a farming business.
Yeah.
On top of that. So
that Plat Vineyard was the prettiest. Like when we went out there to shoot videos and stuff, was that 2020? Was that 2020?
20?
Or was it 21?
I met you in February of 21 because we were out here for my apartment closing.
Right. So then I'd been out there before that because you weren't there when Ryan and I went with Bryce.
That doesn't make any sense that it was in February. It had to have been before that.
Yeah. Maybe it was late in 2020 or something like that we went out there.
It might have been November of 2020 when I came out to look at apartments.
Okay. But that's one of the vineyards we went to, and it's just... I'll try to put some video up over this as we're talking since we shot it, so I have it. It's unbelievable.
I got to go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do. Yeah. The maybe I'll bring you instead of Ryan to the harvest party this year.
All right.
Don't tell Ryan that.
I can accept that invitation.
I've heard it's a blast. I had a wedding last year in Palisades, Colorado, so I couldn't make it. So Ryan went on my behalf.
You really missed out. We had fun.
I know.
We went bar hopping after the Founders Dinner.
Yikes.
The Founders Dinner is like 5 hours and like 10 wines.
That sounds
so.
Like
why not go bar hopping after that?
I literally was leading a team of 40 through 60-year-olds down the streets of downtown Healdsburg.
But that's exactly your personality.
Yeah, I was like, come on,
Like,
grown-ups.
yeah.
Like, let's go. We're going drinking. It was mostly Tulsa people at that point, honestly.
Does that mean Tulsa people know how to
We
go
can
hard?
we can hold our alcohol.
We can go.
Yeah.
You guys like kill me. There was no amount of training that could have prepared me to move to Oklahoma. Dear God.
Well, the funny thing is, you said you were cooking earlier, and being a California girl, like, what exactly were you cooking? Kale.
Oh, it's bad.
Kale chips
So I
and
went to Sprouts, and the lady behind me today was like, "Honey, you're real healthy, aren't you?"
what'd you have in your basket?
This is the first time I've been grocery shopping in 2 months. I don't normally cook. And I just got a stove, actually, for the first time in a couple months. My contractor's been yelling at me that I need a stove, and I explained to him that I don't cook. And he said that we can't just leave a hole in the kitchen.
It's
Fair,
true.
Fair.
Stoves are really expensive, and this is
Yeah.
not my priority.
Yeah.
So it took a long time to save up for a stove. But no, I bought today, I bought broccoli, I brought eggplants, cilantro, green onion, cauliflower rice, spinach, aloe vera chunks for smoothies, other random smoothie stuff, chia seeds, shrimp, and salmon, and nutritional yeast.
I would say
And
that's
seaweed.
a healthy basket.
That sounds awesome, though.
And seaweed.
And
Yeah.
gluten-free, dairy-free ice cream sandwiches, which are actually amazing.
I'll have to be the judge of that. I don't know. I don't know if I trust that. Yeah.
I had one sober today. It was still great.
Okay, fair.
But yeah, it was a very California meal. I had mushrooms too. I just chopped everything up, sauteed it, put some shrimp in it, and then took seaweed and like made little bites out of it. It was good. I was actually very impressed with myself. I didn't burn anything or set off a fire alarm.
It's a new stove.
Yeah, it's a record, honestly. I've set off the fire alarm every time I've cooked since I moved to Tulsa. But I think this apartment has like, I don't know, like a helpful ghost. I don't know.
Okay.
Something about it's different.
Good to know.
Yeah, your new apartment's a little haunted. I'm not
Right.
going to lie to you.
Okay, fair.
I'm staging it before you move.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm selling my house close on Wednesday, and it just happened to work out perfectly. She got another condo and was renting out her first floor one that she's been in. So I was like, hey, I need a place to go.
And
so
I need some
nice.
stuff fixed
Yeah.
that I can't fix.
there you go.
we go.
It's a good trade. So it worked out perfectly.
That's
It's
awesome.
definitely a little haunted. I promise. I already bought the sage to clear it
Okay,
out.
cool. Cool. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it my question?
Sure.
Right on. So I don't know if
you have one.
Yeah, I don't know if you know our happenings here at the tasting room. We usually ask 6 questions with like 18 other small questions involved.
It's supposed to be a 6-pack of questions, which turns into like a case.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just a smattering.
Right.
But anyways, so moving from California to Tulsa, right? That's a big deal, especially with the wine world and this, that, and the other. What do you find here in Tulsa that would deem worthy of wine buyers, and what goes on within Tulsa? Because we actually have quite a bit of a wine culture here. Explain that to
Between
me.
Philbrook and Vintage, and
Yeah,
I mean, there's just all sorts of stuff.
Explain to
Yeah.
me that kind of culture within Tulsa, because I like wine, but I'm not necessarily entrenched in that. What have you found within Tulsa that really makes wine drinkers here at least enticing enough to move across the United States?
Well, I think it's wild because it's not something that you would expect to have this little town in Oklahoma have this amazing food and wine scene. And I mean, for us to have almost 15% of our top membership living in this one city is insane. Especially because we're in like 27 different states. So that's wild. And I think it, at its core, comes down to a personality thing that I've never seen outside of Tulsa, where people really care about what they do. And it's one of the reasons that I moved here is people put their heart and soul into it, like into their work or their hobbies or their families, whatever it may be. People in Tulsa don't half-ass things, which is awesome. Consequently,
I could second that.
the partying thing
Yeah, right.
follows.
We don't
but-
have that either.
yeah. So it's in part that. And I think from that comes an appreciation for anybody with a like-minded philosophy. And in wine, you see that, where this is that weird place between science and art, where people are really putting what they love into it. I mean, you get people who operate wine brands solely as businesses, and they make a lot more money than I do. But I think Tulsa is one of those funny towns where they can see that difference. And there is such a curiosity to see the world, whether it be through food or wine or traveling. I mean, you talk to people in the Tulsa airport or coming back from the Tulsa airport, the stories I've heard at Fat Guys, like just sitting at the bar waiting for my flight, it's insane. And so you get incredibly cultured, interesting people who just want to learn and who don't have the idea that they're better than anything. It's one of those places where they just ask questions because they genuinely want to know. I help run the wine list at Doc's, and it's funny because we just put a Vino Verde on as our happy hour white.
I'm there.
And if you could, if 5 years ago you told me that I would be running a list at a restaurant in Oklahoma and be able to put a Vino Verde as a happy hour white and have it run and do just as well as a Chardonnay we were working with 2 weeks ago, I would never have believed you. Vino Verde is one of those wines that has really only come up in the last couple of years, even in California. So to be in Oklahoma and see it on the same timeline is really cool. And to have my staff excited about it. Of course, Darren letting me do that is awesome.
So I think we just threw that in there. Explain what you're also doing for Doc's.
I spend too much time drinking with Darren and Darren has been friends with my dad.
Darren, AKA Dave Matthews. Right.
Since I was 15. I think I met Darren right before Dad and I went to buy my first car because they were all at the winery. And Darren and I were drinking one night, actually with a good friend of ours, Clay Biello. And Darren was complaining about how the list is unorganized and he doesn't have good inventory and he doesn't know how to train staff. And Clay's like, Riley will help you. And I'm like, I don't know how to run a wine list. And they're like, well, you drink a lot of wine and you sell a lot of wine and you do staff trainings all over the country. And you've eaten in nice restaurants all over the country. And I was like, oh my God, maybe I do know how to run a wine list. And as I started meeting with reps and going over our inventory and fixing the typos in the menu, I realized that it's a really fun way to kind of see what consumers in Oklahoma and in Tulsa specifically want. And also what's on the market, what we have shortages of. I would never have seen the issues we're having with half bottles and Sancerre and other French wines. So I think we're having trouble getting New Zealand Savies. So California Sauvignon Blancs are definitely getting their chance to shine just due to the supply chain.
Which is good for business.
Right, that's great for me. And it helps you know what to bring out and what to definitely focus on in my other markets. So it's been fun. Plus, I get to work with all my friends. Pretty much all my friends work in restaurants.
Yep.
So it's been good.
All right, we can try this now. So I brought this bottle because the person who picked this bottle up for me is none other than John Kellerstrass.
Of course it is.
He was in Atlanta for somebody's wedding. I don't remember if it was his niece. I think it was his niece. They were in Georgia for a wedding, and he posted a picture and the bourbon group we're a part of, and it's a Sagamore Spirit Rye. It's a barrel pick from local vine in Atlanta, which we don't get Sagamore here in Oklahoma. So when I saw that, I was like, hey.
So cheers to
I see this.
speciality.
Let's grab me that bottle if you don't mind. And so I've Venmo'd him for it, obviously. But this is a 6-year. I drank the neck pour of it, I think, last week just to let it air out a little bit. So I'm curious to see how it changed. But it's really smooth for being a rye, and it wasn't as spicy as some of the ryes that I've had
It's still spicy
previously.
on the nose.
I mean, more so than a bourbon. Yeah,
Sure.
it will be.
See, I know nothing about whiskey except for I love it and it makes me hungover. It's the only alcohol that makes me hungover.
So this is actually a good
that's
test.
when you have to stop drinking it.
Yes, but this is a good
To not
test
get a hangover.
because we talked about this.
That moderation thing.
We talked about this at Doc's once, I think, where you said even a sip of bourbon makes you hungover.
Oh, I'm going to be hungover tomorrow.
I don't think you will, because that's not you don't have to finish that, but
It's delicious.
it is very good, right?
There's a lot of rose character and strawberry.
Yeah,
on
it's
that.
not too hot on the back, but the problem is I can't find the proof.
That's not a good sign.
Barrel floor rack. I thought it had to tell you the
wow,
proof,
Yeah, they do.
right?
But it's very smooth.
It is very, very smooth.
I scheduled a hot yoga class in the morning so that I can
You'll
be not
sweat it
hungover
out.
by the time I pick my sister up from the airport.
Barrel location. There it is, 110 proof. For 110 proof, that's very, very smooth. Yeah. Did you say ouch?
About 4 seconds after you swallow your sip, there's a lot of barrel character. A lot.
It's like that char and the that
huge
spiciness.
char.
Yeah.
Wonderful vanilla.
That's really good
character. Yeah.
I like that quite a bit.
With whiskeys and with bourbons, this was probably a stupid question. Is it only American oak barrels? And are they new barrels?
So to be bourbon, it has to be new American oak barrels. That's like part of the unwritten rule. And I actually watched a video from, there's this, if you're ever curious, like there's this group called Bourbon Junkies on YouTube. It's Dan and Sean, two guys, but they did a thing today because there's some news that came out that because of, and I don't remember why, but something to do with the pandemic, there's now a shortage of proper American oak to make staves out of. So they're afraid that there's going to be a shortage in bourbon.
It's probably because of
coming down the line.
Probably employment shortages.
Could be that too. Yeah. So to be technically like in the rules, whoever makes the rules for bourbon, it has to be new American oak barrels.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, American oak has to start from the ground, has to grow to a tree.
It takes a minute, right? I mean,
it takes, at least 50 years to grow that tree. And then you got to cut it down, turn it into staves, turn it into a barrel.
Yeah.
All of those points of contention of like the logging to the cooperage and whatnot.
The whole thing's just funny to me because part of the conversation too is like with beer, right? When there was a run on Russian River in Pliny, which we actually went to, I say we, you weren't there, but your dad was, when Ryan and I went out to Flanagan and we stopped by the main brewing facility at Russian River Brewing Company, which is just this immaculate thing to see. I mean,
I really want to go.
It's unbelievable.
Their new place.
So it's
wow.
Yeah, so that's the one we went to, the newest one, right? In Windsor, I think it was. The funny thing is, so they had I'm going to squirrel off on a story real quick. So, they had probably 12 to 14 beers on tap. And usually when I go to a place like that and I know I like Pliny, I'm going to ask what the bartender recommends and I'm going to try that because I've had Pliny. And I will have one before I leave, which is a double IPA, Pliny the Elder. It's like one of the most sought after, highly rated beers in the world, probably, at least IPAs. And so they each said, like I asked the first bartender, I was like, what do you recommend? He said the double dry hopped Pliny the Elder. I was like, okay, I hadn't heard of that. I'll try that. Yeah. And then had it, went back, new bartender. Hey, what do you recommend of anything on the board? Oh, the double dry hop Pliny the Elder. I was like, I'll take another. Third guy went back. He said the same thing. I was like, okay. I was like, hold on. There's 14 beers up there. What are the odds that all three of you would say the same thing? And this was 2 or 3 weeks after they released Pliny the Younger, and it sold out in like 2 minutes online. Yeah. And he said, well, I'll tell you a secret. He was like, we didn't get to really drink Pliny the Younger this year. So on that tap right now, if you think of what a double dry hopped double IPA is, it's Pliny the Younger. I was like, oh, cool. Okay. And that's a beer you have to get. I know you're glazing over right now.
I have no idea what that means.
That's a beer you have to get at the brewery. Like it's a brewery only beer.
I should know these things. My best friend in high school, his parents, actually, we've been best friends since middle school, but his parents had a brewery. I told you this, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, in Petaluma. And so he knew everything there was to know about beer, and I knew everything there was to know about wine, and neither of us could legally drink. But hypothetically, he didn't really like wine, and I didn't really like beer. So it was always, there was no sharing.
Right.
In our younger days.
That's funny. So I'll wrap that up with, the reason I went into that is it was said that like back when there was a run on Pliny the Elder, right? All Russian River had to do was brew more Pliny the Elder. It's pretty simple. And it takes what? A week?
Oh, a little bit longer.
2 weeks, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Not 6 years.
Not 6 years.
Not 10 years for Eagle Rare.
No.
Not 12 years for, so like you can't just, the price of bourbon and the popularity of bourbon has skyrocketed over the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
But we still haven't seen the catch up as far as inventory because of the amount of time it takes to age the bourbon. So it's just a weird thing. And now there's going to be a lot more bourbon coming out over the next couple of years, but then there's going to be another dip if there's actually an issue with the American oak and the barrels and all that stuff. So it's just a weird thing to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I mean, it's funny because I never heard anything about bourbon before moving, but people people talk about bourbon the way I talk about wine.
Yeah.
I think it's the same with beers where there are so many different parts that goes into it and there's so many different styles, which is why I should probably not say that I hate all beer. I probably just haven't tried a beer that I liked yet.
We'll work on that. There's some good breweries here in Tulsa.
That the last beer I had was probably a warm Busch Light in a frat house
Well, that
basement.
doesn't count.
It was probably the last beer I had.
Drank warm piss. No one likes that.
Yeah. If you did like that, I'd be worried about your
I
taste.
like White Claws. I know that gives you
White Claws are solid. High Noon is solid.
I like
That's okay. Yeah.
That's a seltzer. So, you know, we're getting closer.
It's like when people say to me, like, "Oh, I like sweet wine." I'm like, "That's a thing. That's juice."
It is.
My soul might hurt, but that's okay.
So let me ask you, I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say, I know that wine, like in and of itself, incorporates or like includes more women than I feel like beer would or bourbon would. And that might be an overstatement, but I'm just in generality.
In general, for sure.
But I don't know if owning a label or a winery, I don't know if you're playing in a boys club or not, but I'm going to assume that you kind of are to an extent. And I wonder what you've come across in that regard. Any
lucky.
Pushback or anything?
I'm at that place. I don't know how to say this. I'm at that lucky sweet spot in whenever you're equalizing anything. Mm-hmm. It's still helpful. Like you still get treated as a minority, but the grunt work has been done. There are some amazing women in this industry. And I think it's also very interesting to see the women who are doing a lot for young women in the wine industry who aren't even working in the wine industry. So whether that's customers that we have who support me because they love what I'm doing and they want me to have as much of a chance as anyone else, who have parties with all of their girlfriends. One of our dear friends, Danielle McCracken, did a no boys allowed, women only, let's drink the wines and show her how we can show up for one of our own kind of thing, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. I know that within the Court of Master Somms and with doing the certified tests and the advanced, there are a lot of things that are really iffy. And it's something I definitely want to do. It's something I've been cautioned against doing by multiple somms who are female somms who are certified in their 30s. I think they had it much harder than I will have it because they really are stepping out and stepping away from being waitresses and hostesses and taking over wine programs. It's one of those things where it's also you go out and you drink after. And a lot of the best placements that I've made have been hanging out at a bar, talking with people. And so that's something you have to be able to hang. And this, I think, is something that's not often talked about, especially in the restaurant industry. You cannot take 3 months off. So if you are a woman in wine and you want to have kids, that's really like a lot of planning. First of all, you can't drink for like 9.5 months. Don't get me started on that. But then to have to not be there or not be able to be on your feet running around. Yeah. I know when I'm doing market visits, I'm on my feet for 12 hours, 14 hours, driving around, seeing different spots, talking with people, presenting in front of people, doing wine dinners, and then going out with a buyer after. That's not something I think that would be easy to go and then take care of kids, or
That's
you
true.
would have to have a partner willing to stay at home and be on all the time. It's not hours that you can really work around. It's the best job on the planet because you get to make your own hours and you have a ton of fun, and your job is to do all the things that people want to do when they get off work. But at the same time, it doesn't ever really end.
Yeah.
There's no time where you can just unplug your phone and have family time or anything like that. And I know there's been a lot of issues in past, I think more specifically the generation before me, in what can you do for me? And with any boys club, I think there are definitely issues in that. Young, beautiful women got a break and then were faced with costs they did, that no one should have to pay and that they should not have been asked to pay. I have it easy. A lot of women have gone through a lot to set the scene, just even in any workforce, of equality. And also, everybody knows my dad, and everybody respects my dad. And everybody has my dad's cell phone number. So people are really, really nice to me. I see the best parts of everybody. because they know that there is most likely someone watching who would just call my dad.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So I can't really speak on it. I know in little things, I travel alone 20 days a month. And it can be terrifying being in a brand new city, staying in a hotel, not knowing the area. I don't drink when I work when I'm by myself, which confused a lot of people at first and confused my dad at first. And I had to explain that I'm getting into Ubers and cabs by myself late at night on weekends in unknown cities and going back alone to a hotel. I'm not trying to end up on First 48 or in a Liam Neeson movie. And that in my day-to-day life has been the most difficult thing. That and people not taking me seriously, which I think is partially age and partially personality. I wouldn't take me seriously if I met me either. But
that's very self-aware.
I would say that I got it easy.
I think so. Yeah.
I have it easy.
Yeah.
So
Do you notice the same kind of thing if you ever speak to female? I don't know how many breweries are female owned. Probably not too many, but there are a handful of master brewers that are female.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you hear stories or know anyone that kind of goes through similar things?
100%.
Yeah.
The brewing industry just went through a massive slaughter of accusations and whatnot.
Oh, that's right. With like founders and all that stuff was a part of it. Yeah.
So we're cleaning up shop pretty well in our industry, which is really, really cool. There's a few different, one, I got to brag on Cabin Boys. We are actually a majority women-owned brewery.
That's right.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
We're 62.5% owned by women.
That's awesome.
Which is really, really cool. So I'm actually the minority at the company.
That's cool.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's really cool. So my wife is a majority owner of the company. So she runs and operates, our brewery and with myself, but she would be one of the very, very few in the country that is actually a majority owner of a brewery. So she runs into a lot of those barriers that you're talking about. One of the cool things about the beer industry or whatnot right now, back in the early 2000s, I think craft beer was drank by, women, let's call it 10% of the volume was drank by women. Now, 56% of all volume of craft beer is drank by women.
What?
That's cool.
So we have broken over the barrier. And I think in all convenience stores across the nation, I think it's 75% of the volume bought is by women.
And is that only on craft beers or on beer in general?
Craft beer.
So maybe women just have better taste than men.
That's what it sounds
like.
And
so they're going for the craft beers while boys are drinking something
exactly.
icky.
So, and that's such a really cool thing. I do think that women have a much more refined palate. The convenience store statistic is, of that volume, they are buying for their husbands, but also at the same time, we now know that the majority of our volume is being drank by women. So it's a really cool ordeal for the craft beer industry and a major hurdle for us too, because our club has been such a huge boys club. And not only a boys club, but like white males with beards.
Well, it's funny. Like I'm going to leave here.
I'm pointing at myself.
Right. I mean,
so, I can't reconstruct my body.
Hey, that's most of my friends.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So do you want to pop open the Daddy Flanagan while we, I'm going to, cause I'm curious, I'm going to leave here and go to Roosevelt's cause they're doing a Sierra Nevada tap takeover today.
Oh,
and
sweet.
they have like 18 beers on tap all the way back to like 2017, 2015, something like that.
That's super cool. That's a really cool company too. They're still family owned and
I didn't know that.
$1 billion corporation.
And that's a California company, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But where I was going with that is you're 100% right because I know, please don't cut yourself too.
You know how bad I am with foil. So I'm like trying to do this so the camera can't see how I really can't work with
But
foil.
Hayden's going to switch to that camera so that we can see. So see the red light? That means,
I have been serving wine since I was like 4 years old, and I still to this day cannot work a foil. It's embarrassing.
Do you want me to show you my secret?
You could try.
So my secret, and I don't know if this is the correct way to do it,
It's definitely not the correct way.
I just go up top
It's completely incorrect.
to open up.
That's the house way
it's
of doing
cool.
it.
To open up the cork, and then you don't have to worry about the whole thing.
I am both inept and completely snobby about it.
Which I know is probably not the if you were going to pour it in like a Somm tasting or something like that,
Oh,
you couldn't do it
Somm
like
test?
that. Yeah. See, that was a lot easier though, right?
True. It's why my wines, though, have no foils, because I don't want to shoot myself in the foot.
But at least you don't have a screw cap.
I might.
Are you going to do that?
I see. I'm old
Do
school.
people not turn their nose up at that?
I get a lot of requests for screw tops.
Okay.
I'm old school. I think it's romantic to have that pop of the bottle. I love the sound. I love the corks. I like the smell of corks. Dad thinks that it's funny when I say I'm old school because then he asks me what new school is. But for me, my goal with my brand is to be by the glass.
Yep.
And I would not know this unless I was helping in a restaurant. It's a pain to open a cork on a by the glass wine, especially when you're going through volume. Like, it's so much easier, and it's so much easier on bartenders. And all my friends are bartenders, and so
That's
now
fair.
I feel badly for them that I'm making their lives harder.
I saw a really funny, I think it was a reel or it was something on social media the other day. And it was this guy that was showing us like the right way, the proper way to drink a screw top wine. And so he unscrewed it. Did you see this? And then he took the top of a Smart Water bottle of water, that has a little blue nipple on the top. And it screws on perfectly. And then you just go. And he said, this is the only way I drink white wine or whatever.
That's terrible.
I know. But also
so
great
bad.
at the same time.
I sent it to my best friend
Yeah.
from high school because she and I, this is so trashy and so bad.
So what did you just do, by the way, for anyone that saw that? Were you checking to see if it was corked?
Yeah, I was just smelling the cork.
What does it smell like if it is corked?
Cardboard. Wet cardboard.
Cool. Now continue your story. Sorry.
So, and this is so I think it's funny because people talk to me and almost apologetically about wine. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know more. Or if I'm on the road and they have to serve it in a plastic cup, they'll apologize to me. Or if they don't have great wine and we're not drinking wine, they'll also apologize. I get a lot of apologies, which is hilarious. And I am 22 years old. The amount of times I have drank my wine out of a plastic, red Solo cup because I refused to drink any of the bad wine that was there, that happens all the time. Put it in, take it as a roadie, all good. It was warm. I was drinking it out of a mug in a hot tub in Broken Bow in December. It was still delicious. It's okay. But a long time ago, and we'll talk about this in theory because, as I said, I'm only 22 and it was long enough ago.
In theory, a long time ago.
So just so you know, when you grow up in the alcohol industry, it's just kind of an
understood, right? Yeah.
Understood that it is a part of your life. I don't even know what my children are going to grow up as. It's throwing tri-clamps on.
That's a good Pinot right there.
Like 4.
Yeah.
I tried wine for the first time at 4.
Yeah.
I graduated college. I did fine. I sometimes wonder how smart I could have been if I hadn't have killed all those brain cells. But you know what? I'm happy with it.
You're still growing brain cells.
You never know. I wasn't
until
pounding
until 26.
Shots in parking lots just to get drunk when I was in high school because I could just go home and have amazing wine.
Just so people understood what you just said, because I was talking at the same time. You weren't pounding shots.
Correct.
Okay.
I was not.
I want to make sure that got
I'm
over
so
the
picky
microphone.
about alcohol. It sucks. It's cost me a lot of money.
Get her some Fireball, guys.
Well, I will drink Fireball. That's bad. So my best friend from high school, who is still one of my best friends to this day and who came out to visit in Tulsa, and we're trying to get her to move here. She and I, the summers between when we were both home from school, I don't know how we came up with this tradition, and it's so bad. We would basically make sangria out of Stella Rosa peach wine because it's cheaper than margarita mix, and it's 12% alcohol. It's $8, and there's technically no added sugars, although I don't believe that.
That's such a California thing to worry about.
So if you can mix it, you can take frozen fruits and put it all together.
Alcohol?
Give me all the sugars.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
You're you all just heard the 12%.
Right.
That's
We're
4%
in on
higher
that.
than that Jose Cuervo mix. But it's cheaper, it's higher alcohol, it's less sugar. So you mix it up with some frozen fruit and a little tequila, a little triple sec, and it's delicious. But at some point it would devolve into, we would just get tired of cocktail making and put a straw, like a swirly straw. They make straws that are long enough to go to the bottom of a wine bottle. You can get them on Amazon. All
right.
And we were just
note taken.
Sit on her couch and drink the cheap wine ice cold out of the bottle with straws. And so I sent her that thing. I was like, well, some people are innovating, babe. Like, we got to move forward here with the times. And of course, you'd stand up after that and you're drunk because you sat and drank a bottle of wine like it was nothing.
Yeah. We'll ask a couple more questions, then we'll let you go because I know you said you had a nail appointment. Is that what you booked for later?
Made it for 5.
Okay.
We'll be done on time.
So we'll let you go.
High priority in my life.
Austin ask his last one, and then I'll ask a last one.
Yeah. Okay. So you've grown up in the alcohol industry, in specifically, obviously, wine. And what has kept you in it? Because that is a long time to be in this industry, and it is not easy. I know from my own perspective of when people ask me like, oh man, this must be the most coolest job ever. And do you love coming to work every single day? Which I do. I absolutely love my job. And they're like, do you get to drink in the morning and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other? But I would say 80% of the time, the shininess of the job has worn off. Mm-hmm. So what personally has kept you in the wine industry and passionate up into this day? It's funny,
and it's always interesting talking to somebody who's also in industry because it is the most romantic job to have on the planet. I mean, I travel around the country. I eat great foods. I like when I go home, I sit in vineyards and I talk about them. And it's the most incredible thing. I once planned a first date, and on that date, I got to pull a barrel sample, and then we had a picnic at the winery. Like, there are amazing perks to being in this industry.
That's a perk.
That says enough about your personality that you planned the first date, too.
It was a competition.
Okay. All right.
You know him. I wanted to win.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That first date?
Yeah.
That guy? Okay.
John knows way too much about my life.
That's what happens when you drink wine at the Flanagan winery.
And Dad makes you make a show about my life.
So check out Larry's Dead Uncle on YouTube. You'll see Riley on
and my ex-boyfriend.
Yes, and her ex-boyfriend that she is referring to on Larry's Dead Uncle. Yeah.
All right.
It's a good thing I didn't tell Dad about that date during filming.
True. Sorry, I interrupted. Continue on what you're saying.
I don't know if it's the whiskey or the conversation. No, so honestly, I had an idea about it before I started full-time. COVID was a huge eye-opener because I was still doing school full-time, but was then also helping coordinate all of our Zoom tastings and working full-time with Dad running his website. Being a small business, we both wear an insane amount of hats to the point where Dad and I were talking about this earlier when I was hiking. You feel like you didn't accomplish anything because you still have everything left to do. Mm-hmm. Even though you're working all day, you're doing it while there's no, okay, I'm off work. Now I'm going to go grocery shopping. It's like, oh, I don't have calls right now. I'm going to go grocery shopping right now or do the calls. So there's just this weird blend of you can do anything you want, whenever you want, but you're always working.
I was watching a movie last night and got an email and I was like, pause. Oh, not important.
Right.
Play.
So you can't turn it off.
No, you can't.
And there are those days when like I wake up and I'm like, what Hilton am I in? Like Hilton Garden, like what state am I in? Because you want to show up for these people. They are taking a chance, trying your wines, giving you their free time. And it's a luxury product. It's their free time and money that they get to choose. And so you want to have you want them to have the best night. You want to show up for them.
Is that so she doesn't get a hangover?
She wasn't going to drink it, so I figure we might as well.
I've been sipping, but I'm a lot slower than y'all. And so you give it your all. I mean, I would never want to do a dinner where someone could say, like, oh, you seemed off that night, or like, are you okay? Or are you tired? My customers deserve so much more than that, and they are the only reason I get to do what I do. That I get to work with my dad and make wine, and I've been dreaming of doing this since I was 4 years old. So I get super burned out. And it's definitely something that I've been struggling with learning how to balance. I'd say exercise is a big part of it. I try and hike every day and try and do a little bit of yoga at some point during every day, no matter what I'm doing.
Taking notes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Also, I take a day off the day I get home. And it's not fully off. I'm still on my phone, but I don't schedule any calls. And I just spend time with my friends. Yesterday, we literally just went grocery shopping and watched Criminal Minds. My best friend and I just had a day off, and that completely recharged me. I also take a week off drinking every 2 months. And I go cold turkey. Like, I don't drink anything for a week. And that, reminds me what it's like to come home sober and how much work you can get done.
Amen to that.
And it just rejuvenates me and it recenters me and it reminds me that I do have control over it, even though in this industry you feel like you have to drink with people to be fun, to show up. People look at you really weirdly if you
100%.
pour them your wine and you don't drink it. They think that there's something wrong with it or something wrong with them. And that's not something you can take on personally. Sometimes that's a boundary that just has to be set. But at the end of the day, the reason that I think I have been able to keep doing it and hopefully will be able to keep doing it is because the people involved. I always have my dad to call, and he would never have me compromise myself for a sale or for a trip. If I told him I needed to, even regardless of the consequences, if I said to him seriously, I need to not do this, he would figure out a way to support me in not doing something that was going to hurt me. Like I said, I'm super spoiled in this position because I have so much support.
Don't sell yourself so short, because it's a lot of hard work.
It is a lot of hard work.
Just the people who show up, who give you a chance, who show their friends. My favorite thing on the planet is when someone says, oh, my friend brought this in. Or, that's the goal with my wines, is someone shared it. And so that just makes it worth it. It just fills my soul. And so then it kind of makes all of those random, like, getting up at 3:30 in the morning to make sure you get to Hertz on time to return the rental car and make your connection kind of thing. It makes it so worth it. That and airport smoothies. Anytime there's a Jamba Juice in an airport, I feel like it's all good. Today's going to be good.
It's interesting. Yeah, I'll back you up on your not drinking alcohol once every 2 months for a week or whatnot.
Which month did you take off?
I take off
February?
Because
it's the shortest month?
It's not because of that. It's because
Fair, though.
it's because January has so many events, and then March obviously is St. Patty's Day and
you can't
has
take off
a lot of events in there. And so February I take completely off every single year, and then I try to take at least like 3 days off at least every other week. It's hard, but
I try to do Sunday night through Thursday happy hour. I try.
Sundays are my day.
See, I'll drink like a brunch, like a mimosa or a Bloody Mary or whatever. But for sure, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I try not to drink every week. And I say try. Sometimes work, what you're referring to, like being in sales, business development, all that fun stuff. Like, I don't want to take people to happy hour and drink a soda water,
Yeah.
So you kind of have to sometimes. But that's my goal every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask it.
Don't really drink liquor.
Yeah.
I love tequila.
Neither.
I love whiskey. I really, as a rule, I say I don't drink liquor. And then it's usually a bad sign if I do, but that helps to not have cocktails regularly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask an end question, but I liked your last answer so much, and we're getting close to your nail appointment, so I'm going to...
You're making me sound really shallow.
No, but
I've been waiting for this appointment for weeks.
I don't want to make you late, was my point. But one
You're
thing
in sales too, John.
Right. One thing we didn't say is, which of your dad's wines did you pour?
Oh, so I actually brought this wine for a reason. I poured his Sonoma County Pinot. So it's a Sonoma Coast blend. What Dad does with his vineyard designates is he picks the best spots in Sonoma County to make wine from. And then when he makes a blend of those vineyard designates to really show off what our area has to offer. And don't let him listen to this because I never want him to know I'm this nice to him behind his back. But
Can you pour me some more?
it's absolutely incredible to me the amount of integrity he has when he makes his blends. It's so easy to just pick the cheapest fruit in that region and charge that region's prices because it has that reputation. But he's really doing everything he can to combat that. And at his detriment, I think he loses money because of it. But I'm just so proud of what this wine represents. Yeah. To take fruit from Ritchie Pinot, Platt Pinot, and Gapsue Vineyard. Gapsue is in the Petaluma Gap AVA. It's got that little orange blossom note. It's a really incredible site that gives you a really light but full, like it's light, but it's got texture and it's got body. That wine is absolutely incredible. And then Ritchie is one of the oldest Pinot and Chard vineyards in the New World. It's got that insane minerality. It's on volcanic ash. It's really hard to get. And then, of course, we talked about the Platt Vineyard, which will elevate any wine that it's in. So to really take that and put it in a blend, that's kind of unheard of. But for him, it's what he would want to drink. And like I said, he's stubborn as a mule, and it's his name.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. And it's a great example for me, for him to say, it's my name. I'm not going to release a wine that I would not want to drink every night.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm partial to the 18s because it was our last perfect year where we didn't have fires or heat damage or smoke taint or anything. And so
that's a whole other conversation.
God, yeah, we'll have to come back to that.
Yeah, for sure. But the stubbornness, though, led him to be a good surfer. Right? Because he wasn't going to fail.
No,
he was going to figure it out.
I can confidently say he is not going to fail at what he does.
Right.
And I mean, there's been times where I definitely thought, I was like, there's no way he can do this. And he can do anything. I don't know if he can make Larry's Dead Uncle famous. He's going to try.
He's going to try.
He got that sponsor all the way through.
Remind me to show you the animated versions of him that we've drawn up.
Oh, how exciting. Have you seen his memoji? Because that's the most accurate
he sent me
emoji I've ever seen.
He sent me that as like what we should base the cartoon off of.
You'll have to meet my dad.
Yeah.
I want to.
He's here for Philbrook Wine Experience.
Okay.
Well, that's another thing is Philbrook.
Oh, we should have him on the podcast next week.
Yes, he's already talked about that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, there we go.
Maybe listening on next week.
Yeah. But Philbrook Wine Experience, we're super excited for. It's one of our favorite events in the country. I think Philbrook Wine Experience and Nantucket Wine Experience are two of the most well-run events that we do.
Sorry.
Man, that is such a
Catalina wine mixer. That's what I was thinking of. What movie is that from?
That's such
Step Brothers?
Completely different vibe.
No,
I think that's
but Step Brothers, right?
Step Brothers.
Yeah, the Catalina wine mixer.
That's such a bold statement from someone in the wine world for a wine event in Tulsa, which is middle America, like almost.
Have you seen our Oktoberfest?
No,
Tulsa goes hard.
Have I seen our Oktober? I have
Tulsa goes hard.
Thousands of beers at Oktoberfest. Like
we don't half-ass it.
I'm very aware. Like it's such a cool thing to talk about Tulsa and how I don't know how bought in we are into those kinds of things.
Yep.
It's wild. Like I'm a very, very small brewery in retrospect to the world, and still the Oktoberfest that we throw here. I was interviewed by 4 television studios at the Oktoberfest personally because they were like, "So why do you pour beer here? What's special about this event? What's going on?" And nowhere else in the States are you going to get that kind of special attention. It's just such an interesting thing.
It is.
The first Philbrook I ever did was I was 18. It was my freshman year of college. And sorry to everybody who gave me wine and didn't know that I was actually 18. I think I've apologized to everyone I know in town. But if I missed you, I'm sorry for drinking underage at your bar.
Noted.
But I was so impressed. And we had actually done Telluride Wine Festival earlier where wine had been missing. And it was just one of their first years. And it was nothing compared to the well-oiled machine that Philbrook is. And yet Philbrook still seems small and personal. I don't know how they do it, but it's absolutely incredible. It is I'm like really looking forward to, I have four different outfits that I have to pick from. I've been planning like all month for Philbrook Wine Experience. I'm very excited. I sound so shallow.
No, that's okay. It's cute. It's funny. You're planning your outfits. I love that.
It's one of my favorite events
jeans,
of the year.
Right.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
I think I might wear boots. I think I'm going to go full yeehaw.
Okay. Cowgirl hat.
let's go.
Someone offered me a hat. I want a hat at the fair, but I'm embarrassed to wear it. I stayed on a mechanical bull for way longer than they thought I would, so they gave me a free hat.
You got to wear it.
But
There we
it's
go.
like a fair hat.
At least to the Rusty Docks pre-party. You got to wear the hat.
Yeah, I got to go plan the menu for that too. That was that's a goal for today.
All right, we'll let you go. I usually let people say where they can either find their beer or whatever. You can
you're
go in so many different places, but where'd you recommend?
FlanaganWines.com,
Yep.
Summit Club, Docks. I'll probably be at Docks if you want to come see me there. Let's see, other spots that we
Philbrook
love.
you'll be at.
Philbrook I'll be at.
Yeah.
We are just getting into Tulsa Hills now. There's another wine
sweet.
shop that's near 91st. That
I'm trying to think of the ones
starts
near
with
me.
a
Are
P.
you in Ranch Acres or
You should get into Ranch Acres.
We were. I don't know what their
Okay.
inventory is now.
Bird is near me on 15th? Like
Bird and Bottle? The
No,
restaurant?
Bird Liquors or Bird. No, okay.
Anyway, all over Tulsa.
Yep.
If you go on my website, you'll find my contact info. You can ask me.
There you go. Well, from
on.
Northern California to San Luis Obispo to Tulsa. We're glad you're here.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Anything else? You good?
No, just it's super cool to
Yeah.
know that a lot of people that are coming from the outside into Tulsa are just as talented and fun to be around. And it's just really cool to see what Tulsa is attracting.
Absolutely.
So it's just
Well,
really
thanks again
cool.
for your time, and we'll
Thanks
get you
for
out of here
having
in
me.
time to go to your next appointment. How's
Yeah.
that? We'll be right back after the break.
Cheers. That was Riley.
Riley Flanagan, the one and only. We described her right, didn't we?
Yeah.
A 22-year-old firecracker.
It's just a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Super cool to me. So for me, that was the first time that I met her. Just someone that you can really get to know immediately within the room.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see why she's successful, too.
Yeah.
Because she has that bubbly personality where she'll stand out in a room, she can command a room, but
It's
then she
true.
also is strong enough that she's not a pushover,
Yeah.
right? So like it's this weird combination, perfect. Like it's one of those things where like fate or whatever, like she's doing exactly what she was put on this earth to do.
Exactly. But also at the same time, she's commanding, she demands the room and this, that, and the other, but also at the same time, she makes you feel very welcome.
Yep.
Really, really cool conversation.
Yeah.
Got to learn a lot about wine.
Absolutely. And we're going to learn more about wine next week. Her dad, Eric Flanagan, is in town. I'm going to figure out a way to get him on the podcast. We'll
Let's
go
do
back
it.
to back Flanagans. But he has a story, man. He was Wall Street hedge fund into wine and has seen so many things. And there's just a lot that we can pick his brain on.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. He's here for the Philbrook Wine Experience, which we talked about. But if you don't have your tickets yet, there's like 82 different events that you can go to. So
Listen all the way to the end. She has a lot of really cool stuff to say about Tulsa.
she really does. That was a lot of fun. Good questions.
Good questions.
Yeah, it was a good time. So we'll be back next week with the father of Riley, Eric Flanagan.
There
How's
we
about
go.
that?
Right
It'll be
on.
fun. We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.